Welcome to the morning show brought to you by ATV-TALK, a motorsports podcast. I'm your host, Leonard Duncan, and Danny Ray Duncan II. And we would like to talk about Supercross and outdoor motocross, MXGP, F1, and multiple other topics today. We are working off of a new script. I apologize. I'm not used to doing that. I'm used to winging things. So I'm trying to fit in with how we're supposed to do it in the modern day era. So please bear with me a bit. Our first topic is to congratulate Honda on a sweep this year of Supercross in the 250 classes, East and West, and the 450 class. So congratulations to the guys at Honda who did an amazing job, the Lawrence brothers and Saxton. So Danny, what do you got for us?
It's Sexton.
You
say Saxton every time, and it reminds me of like Lord of the Rings or something. So this is the first set of titles, and this is the first 450 title that we have, or that Honda has won, and that we have seen since the GOAT Ricky Carmichael has won a title for them. And I believe that was back in 2004 when he did that. So almost 20 years. Jet Lawrence is getting ready to move to the 450 class. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's ready?
I think Jet Lawrence is beyond ready. I think he should have went this year into the Supercross, into the 450 class. You'd probably have a different winner, I believe. Maybe he could have competed with Tomac, who, in my opinion, should come back next year and race, but that's another topic. Jet is more than ready. I believe that if he's going 450 in the outdoor, that's going to be your guy. As long as he doesn't get hurt, he's going to win.
Do you think that if Eli comes back, he can compete with Eli?
Yes.
In Supercross?
100%.
So?
Yep. I think Eli's going to have trouble competing with him.
You think so? You think Jet's that good?
I do. I think he's that good. That guy is a phenomenally talented young man. And you get people like that. I mean, his brother's no slouch. I mean, you think about the category of riders that you're dealing with, and, you know, Tomac's fantastic and Saxton is fantastic, but Jet is, I believe, a notch above all of them, not just because he rides a Honda, and yes, I'm biased, but the guy has just got mad skills.
He does have mad skills, and he does. I think he just, his natural ability and flow and just his personality works extremely well. He doesn't get razzled. He doesn't get frazzled. He just doesn't get upset, and he just kind of flows. But moving on to this next rider, Aaron Plessinger, he got second in Salt Lake City, and I got to be there for the last race. And let me tell you, Aaron Plessinger is the crowd favorite. When he said at the end, when he was on the podium, "Woo, do it for Dale," everybody erupted in the stadium. Everybody just loves Aaron Plessinger. He is just such a great guy. He doesn't have a ride for next year as of right now, but I think KTM will hopefully re-sign him. Somebody will sign him because he is legitimately the crowd favorite. There is not one person that does not like Aaron Plessinger, does not want to see him succeed.
We'll be transitioning into another topic, and let's bring Aaron back up when we transition. Let's roll into Dean Wilson and talk about him for a moment, and then we'll get into our other topic. I don't know much about Dean Wilson. I follow him on Instagram because he is flamboyant. He has amazing photos. He's not one of your, I would say, top contenders always, but he's got a following. I don't think his career's over. He probably is going to come back next year, maybe in a different form, maybe in a support ride. I don't know. I don't think he's done. What do you know about it?
I hope not. So I follow Dean Wilson. He's been one of my favorite riders. My boys and I actually got a photo with him this last weekend at Salt Lake. There's some shirts signed from him. He said when I asked him, I didn't really get to talk to him, but I did ask him. He said he's not sure that he's looking into things. He will do the Super Motocross series in September and ride through that final, but he might not race next year. This was his top. He got top 5. He got 5th in Salt Lake, and that was pretty good. He's just one of those guys that you root for, like Aaron Plessinger. He may not always be on the top every time, but he's just such a good guy, and he'll sit there. I mean, he had the biggest line of anybody that I saw.
That's why he's going to come back, because the sponsors see this. They know that this guy sells product.
They have to.
Yeah, if you have a huge social media following and a huge fan following, the sponsors are going to see this. I don't think we're in the age anymore that win on Saturday night, sell on Sunday morning. Your internet sales matter in your interactions with your fan base on social media. And from what I see, Dean is interacting with his fans on social media as well as at the tracks that he goes to. So if I was a sponsor, I'm going after a guy like that, especially if I'm not a tier 1 level sponsor. Maybe I'm a tier 2 or a tier 3. I'm going to go for that guy because he's going to sell my t-shirts. He's going to sell my jerseys, Plessinger's going to sell me cowboy hats. So
yeah.
Let's do
another
this,
guy that was not on the list that we can add to that is a Justin Hill. He actually podiumed in Salt Lake as well, and he's a family ran operation, and he podiumed in Supercross. And he used to ride for Kawasaki. He rode for Suzuki. He was I think he's a 2-time champion, 250 outdoor, 250 indoor titles, and Monster Energy sponsored him because him and his brother go out and do cool stuff on videos and Instagram, and they put together a family ride, and both of them got in the top 7 this last weekend in Supercross, and Justin podium, and he progressed the entire year to get to that podium. He started off in the top 10, then he went to the top 5, and then he podiumed at the end. And I think he would have done that progression whether the injuries were not, maybe not a podium, but he would have stayed in the top 5 for sure. I feel like he was off the bike for 2 years, became a cop, and then came back to Supercross.
Well, my little man Danny Ray behind you.
That is Danny Ray.
Well, make sure you give him a hug and a kiss. As we shift into our next topic, we're going to get into Yamaha and whether Tomac has signed a contract or not. Danny did step away, if you can see that, but he's still listening. And then you have Webb with no contract for KTM. And if Plessinger has no contract, you could throw him in the Yamaha mix as well. I don't know about that, but you could, because Yamaha needs a guy. And if you're looking into you'll be looking into a new face for Yamaha, They
do have Dylan Ferrandis, he is really fast, but I strongly feel like if everybody's waiting, the domino that needs to fall first for anybody is Tomac. Once Tomac decides whether or not he's going to come back or not, then you'll start seeing these other guys get signed. Webb's not somebody that needs to wait for Tomac to decide, but if he does want to go back to Yamaha, then that is a piece that he needs to wait for. But I mean, you could see Webb on Monster Energy Kawasaki. Webb has it to where he can go anywhere. He can go to any team and he will be successful, and he can sign with any of them as of right now. I think that he will stay with KTM. I think he's comfortable. I think he's had extremely good success with KTM. Roger DeCoster is doing everything he can to make that bike a winning machine. And I don't see him going anywhere else, personally.
I don't see why he would either, because if he is comfortable and happy, they're just probably crunching some numbers and got to figure it out. You have to look at the upcoming economy for 24. What has it got in store for us all? And if you look at sales, some areas sales are down and other areas sales are up. So that might be something then in our next show that we cover, looking at some of the sales in the industry to help justify it. I know in the business that I work at every day, we are freaking extremely busy and still selling product in what they say it is an economy that you can't You can't do it in a hobby industry. So your motorcycle industry is a hobby industry, and I still see new motorcycles in the back of pickup trucks all the time. I mean, I don't know about where you live, but here
all the time.
yeah. So if sales are still good, you're gonna see these guys probably get rides, Plessinger, and I can't see why. You know, I was thinking about this today, off subject, Danny. And you know how I feel about KTM, and I was thinking today, you know what? It really doesn't matter. These guys are out there supporting. They're out there doing this. I should freaking support them. I should be on their team. You know, whether I'm a favor to Honda or not, you gotta favor them all or like them all and welcome them all, because they are doing it. They have 3 different motorcycles that you can ride, you know, with 3 different brands, and they're putting it out there. So I can't see KTM not bringing these 2 individuals back. So,
I can't either. I mean, who's doing more? Who's doing more than KTM and Yamaha in the industry right now?
Honda put a big effort in this year. You know, you're seeing more red bikes in the results all across the board. You know, from you don't see any Hondas in the XC series, but in the Work series, Honda's been on the podium. Kawasaki's been on the podium, which has been dominated by KTM. You know, I mean, we're getting off topic here a little bit, but
yeah,
we should transition into Saxton and talk about him. We did prior to everybody before we went on air. We had a conversation about him. He did sign with KTM. I have my feelings on it. You have your feelings on it. Let's hear what you have to say.
So I think personally, he probably should have stayed with Honda. I think he did that out of fear because of the Lawrence brothers coming up, and he was worried that he was going to be the one pushed out of a ride, and he wanted to sign when he could. So I think he mainly did that out of fear, but I think it'll be good for him. I think KTM has Roger DeCoster, and you know, Roger, everywhere he goes, he's successful. I mean, you can't take that away from him. And KTM does have a good team and a good product. And so I think that he'll do well. I think there'll be some growing pains. I do not see him winning the Supercross title next year. I think that it'll be a better Supercross season if everybody stays healthy next year between Webb, because Webb is dominant in Supercross, Tomac, if he comes back. You're going to have Dylan Ferrandez back. You're going to have Jet Lawrence up there, Chase Sexton. You're going to see different winners. You're not going to see somebody dominate the series next year. But I think it will be good for him.
I think I disagree with you on the series. I believe Jet Lawrence is going to wipe them clean. He's going to do everything but frickin' win them all. And that's just my opinion. Jet, I'm just a team player, okay? I have mixed emotions about it. I think he should have stayed with Honda too. Roger DeCoster is a phenomenal guy, but can Roger DeCoster fix his mind?
I mean, he did win the same amount of races as Tomac at the end here. He did put it.
Tomac missed 2 rounds, dude. Come on.
Yeah, Tomac did miss 2 rounds, but I mean, he did pull it together at the end and win 4 straight. I mean,
because
I still think he's a mental marshmallow, but
he had no mental threat.
No.
In the last 2, he had no mental threat. So
nope.
You're I don't think that's accurate. Chase, I'm not trying to call you down, but man, when the chips were down and you could have dominated the series, you crashed out of the lead 4 times.
More than 4 times. They did it. It was 5 times.
Well, 5 times. Okay, that's even worse. So
yeah,
you know, can Roger DeCoster fix that?
I think if anybody in the industry can, it would be Roger.
Well, let's for Chase's sake, let's hope that's the case. We'll just shift the gear into Dungey and KTM. My thoughts are Dungey is a phenomenal rider. He was a great champion. He made KTM who KTM is, or got them on track with DeCoster's help. Could he have won the title this year if he raced Supercross? No, he's not that guy anymore. I don't think he had the physical stamina or ability to raise the bar that high. Would he have been?
Tell you a story about Ryan Dungey.
Would he have been a top 3, top 5 guy? Yes. And with the injuries, he probably would have rose into the 2nd spot, maybe even the 3rd spot. But no, he couldn't have won the title.
Let me tell you a story about Ryan Dungey. Ryan Dungey, he broke his collarbone in San Diego in one round. He got it fixed. He came back and still won. Okay, he finished the San Diego race after breaking his collarbone, got top 5, and then still went on to win later in that year. He's a consistent rider. I mean, you can't find anybody in the industry that's more consistent than him. Everybody thought that he wouldn't finish top 5 in outdoor motocross last year either. And he finished consistently top 5, 6th, 7th was the furthest he went back. You can't take somebody who is that consistent and say that they don't have a chance. This series this year took consistency. That's what it took to win this title. He wouldn't have gotten hurt. He would have put himself in different situations in order to be able to win the title. I strongly feel like he would have had a better chance than you're giving him. And, I think that if it wasn't for the fact, like he said in an interview, if he didn't have to move to Florida and uproot his wife and 2 kids to Florida again to race for KTM in 2023, we would have had him as the champion in 2023.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for the guy, but I just disagree.
Purely on consistency.
We'll just have to
put pressure on a guy like we just talked about in Sexton, and Sexton's going to crumble. And Dungey is a mentally strong.
No, Dungey's not going to crumble mentally. Physically, I don't think Dungey has the same skill set that he had before. We're gonna get into this never-ending discussion about it. I hope Dungey's at KTM with DeCoster so that they can coach Chase and any of the other riders. Webb also is going to need some coaching from a guy like Dungey because he is getting older and Dungey has that experience. So if those 2 guys are at KTM, KTM's going to have a great shot next year for multiple championships. As we roll into correcting things that happened in our last episode, we talked about RJ Hampshire, and Danny, you were correct. He is only ridden for Geico, Honda, and Husqvarna. I went back and checked all his social media posts. I could have swore that he rode a blue bike. I apologize, RJ, for not knowing my history, but he's another one of those guys. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's good, and he's great social media coverage, and people are gonna gravitate to him. He's a family man, I like what I see there. So there again, if I was sponsoring the guy, I would be keeping him around on that Husky.
He signed it to your extension.
That's awesome. Congratulations, gentlemen. We're going to shift gears and go into outdoor motocross. Who's in, who's out. Tomac's out. Webb's still down. He's probably got another 6 weeks of recovery. I don't know about the list of other injuries. Roxon seems to be fine.
So Roxon is okay. Roxon is okay after his injury in Supercross, it sounds like, but he is not doing outdoor. He is going to race the World Supercross Championship. I don't know a ton of details about that series, but that is what he's going to race instead.
We'll have to look into that because I bet you that's a pretty cool series.
It is. Justin Brayton, I believe, won it a few years beforehand, and then Roxon won it last year, I believe.
Did Adam Cincerillo?
Adam is racing.
Healthy?
Adam's healthy. I believe, from what I understand, Malcolm Stewart's racing. I'm not sure if Anderson will be at Paula round 1, but he said that he will be in. He has a C5, C6 fractured vertebrae, but no displacement. So he will be back. He will be out for a little bit. Jet Lawrence will be lined up. I think that I have not read. I've been trying to figure out if Hunter's going 450 or not. I haven't read. I think he's staying 250. But I think that would be more interesting if he went 450. I think that would be more for the fans. That would be better because you would have a former champion in Dylan Ferrandis lining up with a Chase Sexton, with a Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, Adam Cianciarillo, Malcolm Stewart. I mean, those 6 guys, Jason Anderson, and he's healthy, would
Do you
do
think
really
that
well.
do you think that Dylan is over falling down?
I mean, I think so personally. I think that he is better outdoor than he is indoor. And I don't personally like the guy. I have very actually strong feelings about not liking him because of how he rides. I mean, the reason why he's over here, from what I understand, is because he kicked somebody off the track in Europe and nobody wants to sign him over there. But
Well,
uh,
that'd be a good reason not to get a contract, you know?
but he,
Um,
he is fast and he's been training for outdoors for months now.
well, let's see what he does. I mean, he came over here and set the world on fire the year he won the title. Nobody saw him coming. You
I
know,
saw him coming. I just didn't want to see him come in.
I had no idea. Didn't know, at that point I wasn't following it as closely as I am.
I
As
think
we transition here, still talking about outdoor. Do you think Honda is going to take the handcuffs off and let these two go, head to head with no team orders on Chase and Jet?
I mean, Sexton's going to KTM, so
Next
why
year,
not? They want
but
they
the
want
outdoor this year.
I know, but they want Jet to win that title. They want to prove that they, made the right decision in not giving Sexton the bigger contract and all of that. I mean, and Sexton wants to prove that he's a better fit than Jet. So I think that they will. I think that you'll have a dominated series with Ferrandis sprinkled in there, but I think you'll have Jet Lawrence and Chase Sexton winning a lot of these rounds. Webb will come back mid-season. I don't even know if he'll actually come back for outdoors at all. It's kind of hush hush right now. But if he does, he might, get a top 3. He did win a 250 title, but he's not a super good outdoor rider. So I think it'll be the Jet Lawrence and Chase Sexton show.
Well, I bet you that we are missing somebody in that equation that is going to rise to the occasion like they always do every year, that will jump in there and be a breaker up of the scenario. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Eli Tomac. Whether he rides a blue bike or green bike or whatever. I'm a super fan.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed when he left Honda years ago, but look at the courage the guy has. And, strap a brace on that leg, dude, and come on back, because I think you can run with these guys even injured. So being a fan there, it makes it tough, makes it tough. I like the older guys that show courage and battle. Maybe I'm not as up on Dungy as I probably should be, because he's an older guy and he's got that courage. And like you said, he's super consistent rider. Let's get into MXGP overseas. I'm going to let you lead with this because I'm not as schooled on it. I just started looking into it a day or so ago. I apologize to everybody. I'm supposed to know more about everything, but there's so many series going on right now. It's very difficult to keep heads up on this.
So Jeffrey Hurlings is another KTM rider who him and another gentleman, Tim Geisler, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, have gone back and forth with titles for the last 5 years, and he's not racing this year, and Hurlings is kind of just dominating. He got second today in France, but he won the 3 rounds before that, and he is 2 seconds, so he has 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and a 4th right now for the overall title. I mean, they're 7 rounds in, and he's dominating. There's no one.
How many rounds do they go? They go 20 rounds.
They go 20 rounds. They don't do Supercross or anything like that. It's just an outdoor motocross GP series.
I know that their outdoor race courses are different than ours. They don't do the maintenance that we do. Some of them are more natural terrain. Yep. I believe that's the way it should be raced. Why are we grooming the tracks for motocross? Dude, let them race on beat up groove tracks. I mean, that's what it's all about. In some cases, I think the Americans are pampered too much.
I don't disagree. I think you have a guy like Jeffrey Hurlings. I mean, he came over here a few years ago when Eli won the 450 title in outdoor motocross. He came over here and raced, and he dominated. I mean, Eli had already wrapped up the title, and he just needed to finish, and so he didn't really race. He put it in cruise control mode and was like, I need to get top 5 to win this title, or top 6, and he just cruised and did what he needed to do to win the title, to where Jeffrey Hurlings went out there and he did extremely well. I would love to see a series where we had, more than just the Motocross the Nations, and we raced, a whole World Series, kind of like the Enduro Cross does. I don't ever see that happening. That's what makes, the Motocross the Nations so nostalgic and so amazing. But I'd love to see some of those European guys come over here and race. They do race different bikes. They race works bikes. They don't have the rule set that the Americans do. As far as I understand, they're allowed to modify their bike in any way they would like. So,
well, I mean, that being said, even if they are on the same machines, was Villapoto the last guy from America to go over there and try to race?
I believe so.
And he struggled.
Well, so he did it at the end of his career. I mean, Castrelli, who dominated the European series, came over here to race last year for KTM, and he got kind of spanked too, because he was at the end of his career. And that's what Villapoto did. I mean, and it's completely different over there. You need to, you have races in different countries, and, the food, I think, is what messed up Villapoto the most. And he was just getting used to it. I mean, he only had a few weeks to train over there. And I think you give somebody like Villapoto 2 seasons over there, and he probably would have done a lot better. He won't say that because he's a humble guy, but he would. I mean, there's Zach Osborne went over there for a few years, and he won GPs and podiumed a bunch and did extremely well before he came back over here to the States and won his championships.
Well, that being said, we'll have to keep an eye on these guys. I know they're fierce competitors and they ride super hard. So we'll come back to them then on the next show and get some more information. I apologize for not having more on my platform for them, but that Jeffrey is sure putting a hurting on his competitors over there. So do you know what kind of machine he rides?
KTM.
It figures. But yeah, I'd love to see a mix. Maybe they mix the series up. Like I said, I think the Americans are pampered. They don't have to. There's no adversity, basically. I mean,
yeah,
what they think is adverse, go travel from country to country with your documentation and your papers and limited size vehicles. And, here the guys are flying back and forth. They get it put in their contracts so that they can do certain things. I just don't think the Americans are as tough as they think they are,
In some senses, you're right.
Yeah, I just, they're fast, but I mean, we won in America this year. What would have happened if we were overseas? It's not like the ATVs where we have the fastest ATV riders in the world here in America, and the Europeans are playing catch up.
Yeah.
It's a little different because the ATV industry was all started here in America and has been built. They're doing really well, transitioning and getting faster and faster. And at some point, as soft as we are getting over here, they're gonna win a title. They're going to beat us because they're working so hard to develop and get faster. We'll see how that works out. Let's transition to another driver, not a rider. And let's talk a moment about Lewis Hamilton.
Formula One.
He is.
Switch into Formula One. Perfect.
Yep, we're gonna talk to Formula One. Lewis Hamilton is quite controversial right now with some of the things that he says on and off track. They're debating whether he's going to drive for Mercedes or switch to somebody else. There's rumors that he's going to go to Red Bull, which I've seen that by team principal Horner as a no, an absolute no. I don't think anybody else would have him. And, you know, he'd talked about going to Ferrari. I really don't think Ferrari would fit, you know, with the drivers they have. They have their own internal struggles. And they're a very historic, stoic company that likes things a certain way. And their drivers are a little more reserved. They're not, you don't see them out talking as much. And, you know, as a driver, I like Lewis Hamilton, but as a man off the track, shut your mouth and drive your race car, because that's what you do. You don't need to get into politics. If you want to be a politician, go run, you know, go be a British politician and you can talk all the crap about America you want, but do it when you're a politician, not while you're a race car driver.
Yeah, I don't think that he has any leg to stand on talking about politics. I think that within this conversation, our second point is does this open him leaving Mercedes possibly? Does that open up for Daniel Ricciardo to come back and go to a dominant team and he could take the Mercedes back to the promised land and compete with Red Bull?
I think that Mercedes has internal struggles going on right now that not everybody's aware of. The public's not seeing it. You know, when you win 11, when you're dominant for 11 years, and then all of a sudden the car you build is horrible and your drivers are doing nothing but complaining, the car still isn't that good. You know, did the 2021 decision to strip Hamilton of the title destroy him mentally?
Maybe.
And should he just retire?
I think so.
It probably did.
I mean, he's top 6 now. I mean, you're talking about a guy in 2020 who came from getting a 10-second penalty to still finishing on the podium with a 10-second penalty in 2020 to 6th. I mean, he's just, I don't know. Maybe he's not training as hard. He was sick one year. I mean, he was super sick and still finished in the top. I think he actually won that race sick. They didn't even think he was going to race and he still went out there and won. So I think that you have somebody who is, you know, kind of soft. I think, you know, you talk about
He's lost the will to fight.
He's lost the fight. Now he doesn't want to get hurt. He doesn't, you know, if the car's not perfect, then he doesn't want to drive it.
Well, the organization's also against him. They don't want him to win again.
I don't know about that. I think that you have somebody who
look at 2021 and then you look at the decisions they made in 2022 that were always against Hamilton. They would let Verstappen do whatever they wanted. He could rough other drivers up, you know, bully him, be an ass, and he could get away with it. And Hamilton was always punished. You know, they're always.
You look at it. I mean, you look at Hamilton throughout his career. He's always been an aggressive driver. I mean, how many times did he punt Verstappen? You know, before he
not
was
one
good?
time.
Yes,
Verstappen caused the accidents. Every time Lewis and you got in an accident, Verstappen caused it. That big incident that happened in Great Britain, where it took Verstappen out of the race, that was full on Verstappen moving down on Lewis. Lewis had the line. Verstappen was in the lead, but you're racing for the win. You're not racing to give up like the Europeans and the FIA want you to race. They want you to race like a sissy. Oh, he's moving over. I better back off. No, we're not doing that. We're racing to win. Lewis Hamilton stuck it in there, was racing for the title, and Verstappen moved down on him, and Verstappen lost out. It could have very easily ripped the front of Hamilton's car off. So what would he have gained? Nothing. It was all Verstappen being overly aggressive and bullying, trying to get Hamilton to back off. Now, if they go head to head, Hamilton backs off every time. So did Verstappen get what he really wants? Yeah, but he's still not a two-time champ. He's still a chump that's paid his way to get where he is. but that's not what we're talking about.
You talking about paying your way. You were talking about the Perez kid that's on Verstappen's team and how he's coming up and doing good, and you want to see him do good. That kid legitimately has paid his way into the series. You talk about somebody like Stroll whose dad bought the team so that way he could race. You just what?
You but look at Alonso taking that car that kid can't drive and putting it on the podium. That car should not be in the top 3. And no matter what you think of Alonso, that guy is driving it. He's making it happen. He's hungry. He's aggressive. And
he's 40.
Yeah, and he was a 2-time champ, but he's hungry again. He's doing the things that Lewis Hamilton needs to do if he wants to stay with Mercedes or stay driving. You could see Alonso in a Ferrari, a Red Bull, or a Mercedes easy because he's driving the car above its ability, doing things that I don't think anybody else on the course is doing. Sergio Perez is, yes, he bought his seat, but you know what? He's done everything he's needed to do to make himself a better race car driver. And he's got a great car and he's doing what he can to beat the system. So I'm a Sergio Perez fan solely because I've watched the kid work. Yes, most of your seats are bought, but you have guys that have earned their right to be paid and driving there. Sergio Perez is now a paid race driver. He got in there because of money, but how did Verstappen get the seat? It wasn't handed to him. He paid his way in as well. So
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, I think Perez is, if you've watched the F1 series, he's kind of a punk.
I disagree with you, but we could talk about some of the backmarker guys that are more punks or not as good, but that's not really what we're getting into. You had mentioned some things to me about tire size and the rule changes. I think the bigger tires came into play for safer racing conditions and longer longevity of life of the tire. In 2020 and 2019, 18, they had some failures with tires. They'd run them so long that the tires would deteriorate, and that would cause a tire to blow and then a wreck. And if you know much about FIM or FIA, these guys are sissies. They don't want anybody to ever wreck. They don't want anything dangerous to ever happen in a dangerous sport. The officials are the biggest problem in the whole thing. But the tires are not hurting the slower teams. I think it's benefiting everyone for that larger tire because you're not having tire failures.
The tires rule change that I was referring to is the one where I'm reading it right here, where the revised qualifying tire, and then they have two races this series or this year that they changed the rule. So in qualifying 1, you're allowed to use medium compound tires. Qualifying 2, you're allowed to use soft compound tires. And in qualifying 3, you have to use intermediate or wets will be allowed as long as they
only use the wet tires in the water.
Correct, but they're allowed to use them in qualifying 3. So what I'm saying is what they have done for 2 races this series, and I apologize, it does not tell
there had to have been a reason for it, something in the tire compounds. I'm not up on the change and why. I read that same article, and it never specified why they changed the rule.
I don't understand.
I know that they're experimenting with tire compounds all the time. And like one race, the white hard will be the soft at the next track, and there'll be different yellows and reds or different compounds used for specific surfaces that they race on. I don't think that there's anything suspect benefiting either team. I don't like the transition or the white tires because it cuts down on pit stops where, if you look at some of your slower teams, they would almost do better because their teams are not paid as much. These guys work really hard. The Red Bull guys are the best pit crews there are. And I think that comes from the team principal. As much as I don't like that guy, he is pushing those guys at a higher level so that they're knocking those pits out in 2 seconds, 2.3. I've seen a 1.8. I mean, this is just phenomenal to change 4 tires, drop the thing and go. That's fast. I mean, when you're gaining time on the track because of your pit stop, it's a hell of a deal.
That'll help us transition into the $140 million per year budget change. And has that helped a team like Team Williams, who has went from a 10th place, last place in the series as a team, to 7th? I mean, that's a 3-spot jump. I mean, has that helped them? Do you think that helps the other teams?
I think that you have a management change there that has helped them. I think Haas, like you've also mentioned in here, I think Haas is up for a restructuring internally. But they're not suffering from money. They're suffering from newness. They're suffering from trying to bring American racing into Europe. There aren't always the key guys that can elevate your program because the other teams are paying them more money. I don't know if the $140 million includes team salaries. There's always a structure in there that you have to worry about. Mercedes is probably paying a portion of its bills through the manufacturing side that you never see. So they're still benefiting by having more money. Red Bull is Verstappen's a billionaire. He's paying for things off the side that are out of the 140 million. So their budget is still higher than everybody else's. They proved it in an article that I read 2 or 3 weeks ago, when they were talking about this $140 million budget, that, Max is paying for a bunch of shit on the side, whether he gets it paid back in win bonus or whatever, they're still doing these things that, it's kind of bullshit in my opinion. But look at Alonso driving a car that's subpar. That guy that bought the team ain't probably doesn't know enough to develop it correctly, but you got Alonso that knows enough that he's getting his team guy, his engineer, to set his car correctly, and then he can drive it when it has deficiencies. And so these are some of the differences that you're seeing. Can he go head to head with the Red Bull cars? It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like he has the speed. But let's be honest. Is there something up with those Red Bulls that nobody knows about? Are they doing something that may not be? They may not be breaking the rule, but they're bending it. I mean, hey, I raced works from 2001 to 2007, 8, and all we did was bend the rules into our favor because they were developing the series and developing what it was to be a national level deal. And there were always, blank spots, and there's always blank spots in there. And with the amount of money that the Red Bull group has, they're able to manipulate it with that money so that they're not getting dinged for the gray area rule infringements.
Yeah, I don't agree, but I agree. I mean, you can also talk about Mercedes in that sense of, the fact that they can spend money as a manufacturer. I mean, their DSR system, their drive system where they can move the steering column and change the camber of the tires. I mean, that came from them developing in a sedan and their sports cars that are
It doesn't work.
viable. I mean, it did in 2020.
It came out after that.
No, it didn't. It came out in 2020.
Well, it must have been under the cuff because they didn't start arguing about it until 2021.
Yeah. Well, they tried arguing it in 2020. Christian Gunther, or whatever his name is, from Red Bull protested it.
Horner.
Yeah. Horner. Yeah.
I don't like that guy.
He protested in 2020. FIA approved it. So then they couldn't talk about it until 2021. And then that's when they started arguing about it.
You know, as much as I don't like Horner, maybe I don't like Horner because he's on the gas, dude. The guy is on it. And he is manipulating things to his favor in the arguments that they have with Mercedes or whoever it is. And he's got his team, you know, whipped into shape. His crew guys are on par. They're building great quality machines. And their car is, I would say, years in front of everybody else. You know, look at Ferrari. They almost took the 2020 season off just to develop the new car, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're running to the end of our time. And I wanted to cover some things that we had not covered. So I want to shift gears on you. And I know that you're not prepared for this because I threw it at you late. XC1 Pro bikes. We never talk about them. These guys are riding in the muck in the woods, and their series is probably one of the most competitive series in motorcycles right now because you have 6 different winners in 6 different races, and the top 3 in points are, you know, you could put a blanket over them. That's how tight they are. And it's pretty amazing that they are doing so well in that environment. You only see 3 manufacturers, or 3 manufacturers. You're only seeing the KTM, Husky, Gas, and then, which I consider one as KTM, and Yamaha and Kawasaki. You don't see Honda and Suzuki in that series, at least not in the results that I've looked up. And Benjamin Kelly is leading the points right now, and he only has 1 win.
That's crazy. I mean, you talk about consistency, though. Consistency is key.
Well, all 3 of those guys, they're all super consistent, and they all each have 1 win. And it's how they're finishing on the podium or off the podium. And, you know, the next 3 guys in line all have a win each also. And, you know, they're not that far behind, but there is a separation, you know. Yeah. So we'll have to keep on these guys and talk more about them.
Yeah, they're racing right now.
Right, they are. And we'll get some more information. We had this lady on the show on episode 59, Brandy Richards, and she was the 2021 AMA outstanding rider, and she had an amazing season, winning the Pro-Am, women's pro class, and the ISDE in Europe. This lady is phenomenal. She had a horrific crash the beginning of the year, and she's still out. I don't have a current update on her status. I do know that from what I've heard, she's coming back, and she'll heal. But you know, we all they have a GoFundMe for her. So if you could find that and support her, because she is probably one of your riders that you should support and look at, especially if you're a young lady wanting to get into motorcycle racing. She's phenomenal. ATV racing, whatever, you know, champions are champion, and she's out beating the boys in the Pro-Am class. And I believe she switched over to Pro Women, Pro 125, and Pro 250 is what she was going to race in 2023. And unfortunately she got hurt. Yeah. You look at also Works, the World Off-Road Championship Series. Their Pro 450 class is super tight. They're having some multiple winners. We don't talk about those guys as much as well. Off-road racing probably isn't as spectacular as people would like it to be. Some of these teams also race desert and the Hare and Hound World Championships, which is another form of desert racing, different format. Best in the Desert is having some issues. We won't get into it, but they're having massive issues, and it's turning into a different series. So all of these guys on the West Coast, a lot of them race these different forms, and we need to, talk about them a little bit more, do a little bit more research on them, find out some more information for them, because Works has a 250 Pro class. Their Pro-Am division is stacked and full of guys that are up and comers. Hayden Flores right now is dominating the Pro-Am class. Travis Damon, who is also running second in the points for the ATVs, is leading the Pro 125 class. I think he's got 3 wins, which is, tag team in it. He was a Pro 450 rider. I believe he went to the 125s because he didn't want to give up the motorcycles, but he wanted to pursue his ATV career because he's been doing pretty well over there.
Nice.
Caitlin Jacobs is leading the Pro Women's class. She was episode 81 on ATV Talk. You should go check her out as well. She's right now leading the Pro Women's points and Works. That's just a little brief summary on those. We will be releasing the GNCC Round 7 ATV race report on Friday on YouTube, so you should look for that. You're really going to like this one because it was a huge shakeup in the ATV world in multiple classes. So we're going to bring that to you. Well, no, I take that back. There's some, yes, we knew this was going to happen, but in other areas there was huge changes, and we'll be congratulating those winners in those classes. In closing, Danny, what do you have for us, and anything that I missed?
I don't think we missed anything. Thank you guys for watching the show. Please share it. And next week we'll talk about the Indy 500 and more XC stuff.
Yeah, we'll have some IndyCar stuff. I also want to potentially look into NASCAR. I was having a conversation with my brother Lauren, and because I don't watch NASCAR anymore, when they went to the stage racing, I kind of just didn't like it and didn't want to watch. And he was explaining it to me that there's huge amounts of strategy that goes into those stage races, and that some of the younger drivers with the new car and the new barrier system, they're not crashing as much because of that. So that's something that we should look into and look at some of those new drivers.
Sounds fantastic. Well, with that, thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you later.
All right, everybody. Hey, we ought to thank Elka Suspension, GBC Tires, and DBR Racing for supporting us. And you can see our other sponsors behind me. And we appreciate everybody. If you'd like information about helping ATV Talk grow, go to hello@ATV-TALK. And if you have questions or you want us to talk about a certain series or anything, also hello@ATV-TALK podcast. And you can email us and we'll answer you. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. See you later, Danny. Thank you.